You are putting so much effort on your website, doing content writing, on-page optimization, but it is very important to track and monitor the progress of your work so that you can know how to improve further and how to take necessary steps. First, we will learn about the Google Analytics and how to use Google Analytics to monitor and track your website activities.
Your website, the first thing that you're going to need to do is sign up for a Google ID. And the way to do that is to go to google.com/accounts. Once there, you'll need to create an account and then enter the information. You can leave the mobile phone blank, enter the text in the image, click agree, and then move to the next step. You'll have to verify using an SMS code. When the code comes through, simply enter it into the blank and you're all set. So once you have your Google account created, you'll need to go set up an account in Google Analytics. The account is free and you can set it up by going to google.com/analytics. When you create an account, you have to give it a name. Typically, we just use the name of the hotel. And then the name of your website. We put the domain name of the website. And again, the specific URL. For competitive research, it's best to tell Google what industry you're in. For hotels, we'll choose travel. We'll select the time zone that we are located in. Down here with data sharings, I typically leave these all checked because they allow Google to gather more information about your industry and also allow for technical support with a live rep when you need it. Once we're done, we hit Get Tracking ID. We have to agree to the Google Terms of Service, hit Accept. And now we're in the Google Analytics interface. After you create the account in Analytics, you'll need to install the Google Analytics tracking code on your website. To do that, simply copy the Analytics tracking code and paste it in the header section of your website. If you're not exactly sure how to edit your website's code and you had someone build the site for you, contact them and give them your new Google Analytics code and they should be able to install it for you. To verify that you installed the Google Analytics tracking code correctly on your website, you can track in real-time analytics. To do so, simply click on Reporting, then Real-Time, then Content. When you reach the real-time analytics page, if you see activity, you know that the code has been installed correctly. If you haven't, you might want to take another look.
So today we're going to look at a different section of the screen, and this time we're going to go into the audience. You can find, you can set your time period, so you can choose what level you want to be looking at. In each of the pages you have this built-in explanation of the area, of the different things that you can do with it. And again, I'd recommend having a look at those because you'll probably get much more detail from them about what you can do with the system. So it's definitely worth having a look at and seeing what you can find and then sharing with us anything that you think may be of interest to others. So if I scroll down the screen, what we see first of all is this overview graph. And this allows us to quickly see how many users are using the system. So I can set it to the month and I can see over the month how many people have actually viewed and how that's gone up slowly as we're nearing the end of September. I can also view it by week. So again, I can see week on week how many users there are and how many are accessing the system. I can also do it by day. So if on a particular day you wanted to see how many people were viewing, then you can do that. And this is ideal if you want to have a look and see when lists are being accessed. You can start to recognise trends. So it may be that the night before the start of term, there's a massive peak where students are panicking that they need to find their reading. It may be again that there's a peak around exam time. So you can actually start to pick up on some of those things and see when most pages are being viewed. Now within here we can look at different types of usage. So the first one we're going to have a look at, go back to overview, is a sessions graph. So this gives us the number of times that a user has accessed the system and includes all activity. So although it may say that there's been 181 sessions, that person may have gone in and looked at several lists, and they may have looked at several items while they were in the list, but that will be recorded as just one session. You can have a look at page views. So this gives me the total number of pages that have been clicked on. So again, if someone views a list and then they view an item and then go back to the list, this actually counts as 3 pages. So it's worth bearing that in mind compared to the number of sessions that someone can have. So you would expect your page views to be much higher because they'll be clicking on a list and then maybe going into an item, and each one of those clicks counts as a page view. We can then also look at pages and session. This figure shows the average number of pages clicked on in a session. You'd expect this to be quite low, as a student in particular is probably only accessing one list and maybe a couple of items. So you'd expect there not to be many pages. There may be more when you've got an academic actually putting on a list, but generally you would expect that figure to be low. We can also see the average session duration. And as this says on the tin, this figure will show how long an average session lasts. Again, you'd expect this to be quite low because of the nature of reading lists. So looking at these, 7 minutes, 6 minutes, 15 minutes, with the highest being about 18. So again, that may be that that's an academic working on a list. And you'd expect you can probably start to see a difference. And we can also have a look at the bounce rate. And this figure records the number of times somebody has accessed the site but left on the same page and made no interaction with the site. So it might be they've clicked on your home page and actually they've not done anything and they've just left straight away. So that's what this is recording. And it may be that someone's had a quick look at a list, but actually they've not clicked through, they've not gone any further with it. We can also have a look at the percentage of new sessions. And this is an estimation of the number of new visits that have been made to your site. It is an estimation because somebody may have visited your site from many IP addresses. So I may have accessed the site from a PC within the university. I may also have accessed it on my phone or on my PC at home. So it is an estimation. So if I scroll down, you can see the breakdown of each of those as well. So that gives you the overview for each one. And if I scroll down here, what we can then see is this demographics. And the first thing we look at is we can see the language of the people that are, of the computers that are accessing our site. So this will pick up whether someone's using a computer that's predominantly English language or Chinese. So you can actually start to build up a picture of the type of people that are using your lists. So we would expect it to be predominantly English, but then we've also got French, we've got Chinese there as well. And you can actually start to see the different types of people that are accessing it. We can then have a look at country and territory. Again, that will give us an idea of where people are accessing the site from. So predominantly it is from the UK, which is what we would expect. But then there's other countries there as well. And this may be quite useful if you've got a lot of international students or you've got distance learners, to actually start to see the places where people are accessing your site and using your lists from. We can then break down even further and go into the actual city where people are accessing. Break down by system. So you can have a look and see what browser people are predominantly using to access the site on. You can have a look at the operating system that they're using. And you can actually even look at the service provider. So we'll now have a quick look at acquisition. And again, if I go to the overview screen, and again, we've got the same bit of information up here that you can view and find out more about. But then if I scroll down, what you'll see is we've got a graph here with 4 different areas in it. And basically what this acquisition screen allows you to do is to see and evaluate the referrals that are made to your site. So you can actually start to see where the traffic is coming from. So this direct figure, if I go into here and scroll down, this is the figure that shows how many visits are made directly to your site. It's usually, as you can see, by using the URL for a list. So someone's had the list from somewhere and they've used that and entered it and gone directly to the list that they wanted. So you would expect this to be the highest way that people are actually accessing. If I go back now to that page, and if we have a look at referrals, and these are where someone has found their way to your tenancy via another means. So it may be that they've accessed it via your VLE, it may be that they've found it somewhere else. So down here we can see that it's the main homepage. We can see that quite a lot of access has been made through digitized content. And then some other ones on here as well through JSTOR. So you can actually start to see how people are finding your site other than going directly through a list. We then have social. And again, the main one it's picking up on is Facebook. It may be that a department have a Facebook page that points people to the reading list. It may be that friends, as they're discussing things on there, have found access to the site through that. And then the last one is this organic search. And this is where people have found your site by doing a search. So if we look at the searches that are here, what they've done is they've popped that into Google or their search browser, and it's actually brought up your reading list site within the results screen. So we can see here someone's done a search for an ISBN for an ebook. For others, that looks like a module code. And that's a DOI for a journal article. And then others, it may be that they've entered in search terms. So it gives you an overview of how people are accessing your site, whether they are coming directly to lists. It can help you know if you need to be pointing people in other ways. So it may be that you want to look and see, well, people are accessing it from the library website, but actually we want them to be accessing it from the main university site. So you can use that for that type of data. And then down here we have, there's lots of other things that you can break down and look at in more detail, as we saw last week. And what we can do here is look at the keywords. And this is where you can see the breakdown of keywords that people are using to access the site. So again, this is very much the organic search terms, but it may be that they've searched by lecturer's name. It may be that they have put in a reading list. So it's quite useful to have a look at that there. And now, as promised, if this works okay, I'm going to move on to look at the added feature of real time. And this actually can be quite a nice break in the day to have a look and see how people are actually actively using your site at the time. So if I go into here, again, I've got instruction box here that you can use that will tell you more about it. But what I can see is how people are actually using my site at this particular moment in time. So what I can see is that currently there's 7 people who are actively on that tenancy that are using it. I'm able to see immediately that 86% of those are on, or 86% uses on desktop, and how many mobile users there are. And this obviously goes up and down depending how people are using it. So I can now see that there isn't anyone on a mobile device, but everyone that's using it is actually on a desktop. I can see where in the world that they are located. So currently there's 1 active user in Birmingham. So there's actually only 1 person on the site, and there's actually 1 person in Birmingham using that site. But you're able to actually see at any one point where people are using it. We can have a look and see what page that they're actively on. So that person's on the home page. And you can see how long they're spending on each page as well. So you can actually monitor where they are at what point, how many pages they're viewing per minute, and down to per second. You can see where they've come into the site as well. That would appear there. So it's quite a good way if you are just wanting to see at any one point. So say you were doing your library induction and you're introducing reading lists, you may want to have somebody sitting there to see how many people are actually accessing it while you're talking to them. Or it may be that you just want to be able to monitor at a particular point of the day over a period of time to see what changes there are within that. So that's quite a useful feature to have and to use. And that really brings me to what I wanted to cover today. So we will take questions. Again, if you want to just pop them